Today, I'm going to do a writing video focusing on editing chapter 7 of my first novella, and you're actually going to get a sneak peek into the process of me revising and editing, as I will be taking notes of some flaws that I had in the beginning of my writing journey and some things I'm going to just fix up and to make the story better. So please hit that subscribe button for more writing content. As I'm editing chapter 7, I might be like, just making some small comments about the novella and all that stuff. But overall, I hope you enjoy it, and let's get editing. I'm at chapter 7, and this scene is taking place the next day, and pretty much this is when the transformation is happening. Not going to get too much into that, but let's get into reading and anything that might need to be changed. Okay, I'm just going to take something out because it just doesn't make sense. And then I'm just going to combine some sentences. And I'm already seeing some repetition, and that's not too great. Like, I have a tendency of repeating certain words, and whenever I reread it, I'm like, why is that there? And since I combined the sentence very early on in my chapter, I'm finally like, wow, okay, I need to change something. So Teresa has a white metal toolbox. She begins taking out ingredients she needs. This guy gets his head knocked off slowly. Okay. 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 And I just realized that I don't like the italicized that I have right after that sentence. I'm just going to remove it. And I don't necessarily like just taking out everything and not adding anything, but it's about having that balance. And sometimes you're just going to have more to take out just putting in. And as I am editing this novella, I am learning things that sometimes there's just not going to be something that's going to be added in because sometimes the words don't come, or sometimes it's just right to just take it out. Another thing I'm going to put in my notes, so like unnecessary sentences. And also by the end of the video, I will like show all my notes about what I did with chapter 7. Another thing I found unnecessary is the ingredients. I feel like I can allow the readers to infer what they are and all that stuff. I was just researching in the middle of the book, and I believe that's unnecessary. In my previous video that I mentioned about, researching in the middle of my book and all that stuff, not the best thing to do. So I'm just going to remove that as well. And I'm already seeing more repetition. I'm going to take it out. So after Teresa placed, it just doesn't flow anymore. What's important when you're looking back into your writing, you really want it to flow. And early on, and this is what I'm really catching early on in my chapters, that certain sentences are not flowing together, and it just doesn't make sense. So I'm kind of having a hard time to like how I'm going to rephrase it so it could just flow better, and it doesn't seem like we're just stopping in the middle of a sentence. Okay, so all I had to do was just remove that first part of the sentence, rephrase it in a way, and then poof, it was fixed. So thank goodness for that. And sometimes you're going to stop at every sentence or two, and that's what I've been doing, because early on it's just been very sloppy, let's say. And I don't like calling my work sloppy because I do my best in everything I do, but some things can be a little sloppy, and yeah, it's been quite a while since I last edited this. And you're wondering, how in the world are you focusing while you're just talking? I tend to do that, so yeah. And it's pretty good so far. And also, just reading this again, and between these two characters in particular, I just ooh, I really this is like the groundwork of like how like the dynamics of how far these two characters go in the future, and yikes. Yeah. Mm. Okay, so I'm gonna take this out. And I'm noticing from my beginner experience some things that are very telling, and uh, that's what I'm just trying to take the obvious things out. So yeah, and I'm also writing in my notes some obvious telling things. So if you heard about the advice show don't tell, basically it's like you show the things happening rather than just telling it, like being so obvious and like on the nose about it. But it's good having that balance of showing some things and telling some things, because if you only show and not tell, it sounds vague in a way, and telling just gives us a like, oh, okay, gotcha, and showing makes you predict more about what is happening and all that stuff. Like, I use it every once in a while, but I don't let it overtake my storytelling, because I want to tell the story I want to tell without all these different types of writing advice just telling me what to do. I know it hasn't been too long, but of just reading this is just so funny, and like this is like a mini argument, or like it just makes me laugh so much, and like just want me side eyed, and like anyways, yeah, I'm gonna reread this little dialogue thing, and it's kind of like dialogue after dialogue, and like uh it's like I want to add something, but if I add something, I think it'll mess up the flow. So, and if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So,
Well, I realized something was really broken towards the end of the argument.
mm. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to no.
If something's not broken, don't try to fix it unless you want to take that risk.
I'm going to change some dialogue real quick. Okay, so it did take me a little bit to figure out how to change the dialogue, but I figured it out, and I tweaked a few lines, and it's actually better. And I even put a little Hunger Games reference in there. If you ever pick up my book in the future, Hunger Games reference located in chapter 7. Oh. And then I have this flashback which explains more about these two characters' backstory. And this also has another main character in this as well. So it's connected. The fact that these two characters had beef with each other is just so crazy. And in this scene, in chapter 7, is just reigniting the fire, which is so crazy. And just reading this is just a lot. And I'm like, wow. And also, this flashback introduces a future character, And with this novella, this is the first out of 3. And yes, this is a trilogy. And I knew this was going to be a trilogy since the beginning. And I would love to talk about it. Like, really. I just want to read this short paragraph really quick because it's actually one of my favorites in the entire book. And it's really what kind of set it up the mystery. And let me just read it. Now Sky knew why Sam didn't want to let Teresa's family in their house. The mysteries that were coming in were unable to get out. That she was then and now. Oh gosh. It's a lot. Like there's nothing I can take away from that. Like that that says a lot. Oh, this just gets even better and better. Um, when it comes to me writing two people in an argument, like I just have it build up in a way that it starts rocky, really rocky and shaky, but when it escalates, it gets so good that you just don't want it to stop. And and that's what I'm reading right now. And I'm like, I just don't want this to stop. Yikes. There are some things that I just took out completely because I'm just like, ugh! And it felt very unnecessary as well. So, yeah. And one mistake I realized because I was going down a little bit because all of a sudden I saw page 141. I was like, wait, what? So so chapter 7 has 40 pages? I'm like, wait a second. And I saw the on the bottom of the next page, I was like, okay. So this was just some type of error. So I fixed it and then I went back to reading it and I'm almost done with this scene as well. So yeah, let's see how it goes and thank goodness I'm almost done. So fun. So far so good. So far so good. Okay. And this was a newer scene that I put in here the last time I revised my novella, so it's not as like icky and hard to get through. I'm not saying in the middle of the book is hard to get through. It's just certain lines that just ruins the flow. But with this being a newer scene that I put in inside the novella last year, yes, it was last year or no, did I not? I don't think I touched it. Either last year or 2023 because I haven't made major revisions since then. Okay, yeah, okay. But this is literally a down to earth moment between the two main characters and it's it's very it's very satisfying reading this as like, oh, a break from all of this chaos and all the tension that has been building up. And I feel like with my novella I lacked like a sense of, a relief or like relaxation because we all like a sense of slowdown whenever we're reading. So yeah. Oh, it's funny. I don't have any croutons in my salad. You never have them in your salad. Oh my gosh. So yeah, when I eat salads, I usually eat the bare minimum. I just eat the salad. I don't try to get the ranch and all that stuff. I like croutons, but I'm like, doesn't mean I don't like them. And bits and bacon bits. Come on, Sam, you gotta be kidding me. Um, so this wasn't in my salad. Well, this was on something else, but I was like, bacon bits in here. So I don't know. Some things are just better by itself. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I hate whenever I'm trying to scroll down, it wants to go to the next page. I was feeling so much better. I was feeling so much better until that moment. Okay. Oh. Oh. After this. So after the mission. Wow. This just got me thinking. Like whenever I was writing this newer scene, I was like, when I wrote that line, like telling the character, no, after this, I was like, it made me question. I was like, um, what what could they do after this? Like after the main parts of the story ends, like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, that is such that's a great question. Ta for me to go back to work and you continue your writings. But if you're wondering what we could do differently, that's up to you. Wow. That is wow. I like that. Okay. Okay. Woo! He did it again. There's so much like this character does this character does that. Oh my gosh. Okay, that I guess that's one of the few things. Okay. So I'm gonna put a name. Did did this name did that. So this is another way of me saying repetition, except this is what the character's doing. And this that's just so something. And like I said, at the end of this video, I will show my chapter 7 notes. And you're gonna really notice something. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna remove this sentence. It's just unnecessary. Like I said so many times, unnecessary sentences. Like the subtle character change. I think this is why I love this main character so much because this main character he starts out like really high temper and just very cautious, protective, and now he's just loosening himself up. Like he's allowing himself to become vulnerable and human. And yeah, in this scene, I how I written it out. I not only that I wanted this to be a down to earth moment, but I wanted like changes to occur between the two main characters, and I can clearly see that like transforming, and it's amazing. And then of course, like they get into like, okay, what's the plan, and all that stuff, and then yeah. So overall, that was like okay, like wake up before we get to the next chapter. So overall, about chapter 7, it wasn't a It wasn't a difficult chapter to revise and ed, but I'll say at the very beginning I felt like it was a lot of wear and tear. There was like a lot of things, like a lot of flaws going on, especially with the dialogue. It was choppy and it was just ruining the flow. And I don't know, part of me was like, what was I thinking when I first wrote this in 2022 as a 14-year-old? And now reading this, well, I'll say now as about to be graduate of high school, it just is very different. If I could go back to 14 and actually editing this, I wouldn't change anything, really, to tell you the truth. And the scene that I just read about the two main characters having that down to earth relaxation moment, that wasn't in there. 14-year-old me was not gonna even put that in there. Why? I don't know. Well, yes, I do know because 14-year-old me did not think about that, and 14-year-old me thought it was fine just the way it was. So, pretty much when it comes to chapter 7, these are my notes. And of course, you see 6, so I guess you see chapter 6 and 7. And what you might notice is that it's brief, very brief, as I am someone who, like, not only analyze something very critically, but I would have, like, intensive notes that would be like, that could be sentences long and like have more input and like want to ask more questions and all. But what I'm focusing on this draft of revising, more of like line and copy editing that are focusing on the grammar, the style, the quality of the writing. That's what I'm really focusing on because I want to publish this in the near future and I want it to be great quality, but also I want this to be something that readers cannot put down. I want them to just like to read it in one sitting and be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait for the second one." And I want them to feel so excited because as I was like editing this first novella, I'm like at each page, by the time you get to the end of each page, there's always something you learn. And before I was just writing it because it was based on a script, based on this dream I had, and I really wanted it to come out. But as I've been writing it and like really studying the story, I realized so much more about it and like the mystery that stories have. There's always a mystery in stories that not only to be solved, but also keep you at the edge of your seat. It doesn't have to be the most tremendous type of quest. It could be small. How I center my stories is like very family oriented. Family is very important. Family has really kept me going, and I really appreciate that. Writing about family in my novella just enhances my love and storytelling. If you made it to the end of this video, I want to announce that I'm going to have my very first live stream May 23rd at 10 a.m. Central Time. So set your notifications. And what we're going to do here, we're going to discuss so many things about my writing journey and what goes on, and some stories and all that stuff. And it's going to be really fun. I'm very excited for it. So, have some questions ready, and I'm just happy to chat with you. And thank you for watching, and see you at the live stream.